Good morning. I'm David McGard. This is Property Value. I talk about commercial real estate focused on South Florida, best place to live, where I call home. It's March 11th, 2022, and it's Friday. Hope everyone has a great weekend coming up, but let's get into some headlines. First one from The Real Deal. And we're talking about Miami investor Enrique Manhard scoops up Mimo District land for $8 million. Why do I start with this topic or this article? And this is by Lindia Dinkova. I start with it because people are still buying land. That's amazing. Now, whether it's speculative land or maybe they're going to hold on to it and they think that they're going to maybe flip it or actually build it later on in the market or cycle, what you call, right, in the real estate world. But who knows? Maybe they're going to build themselves. People are bullish on Miami. Miami investor Enrique Manhard bought 1.2 acres of land in the Mimo Biscayne Boulevard Historic District near the Bright Line train tracks. That makes it a transmodal land purchase. Manhard, who purchased the development site along with investment partners, currently does not have plans to either build on the property or flip it, although prospective tenants have expressed interest in a ground lease, according to the buyer's broker, Estela Perez of EP Realty Group. A ground lease is when the owner keeps possession of the land, but leases it out and someone else comes and builds their own property. Usually they do a 99-year lease. And once the lease runs out, then the asset is already, the improvement is already depreciated, really not worth anything, ready to be scraped and raised, and another tenant to come in. And it's a pretty hands-off investment for the landowner. Returns are small because it's low risk. So this says Perez did not disclose the other investors, saying Manhard is the main one. Records show the seller is 5220 Biscayne Boulevard LLC, managed by Fatos Rosenberg. The site last traded for $8 million in 2005, according to property records. $8 million in 2005, and another $8 million. So basically, they're saying that it didn't appreciate at all. According to property record, the land is just south of Northeast 54th Street and between Biscayne Boulevard and Federal Highway, as well as just east of the Design District, Design Place Apartments, and Little Haiti that's being redeveloped. Manhard is a Uruguayan investor who cut several deals this year, both buying and selling development sites in Miami. In June, he and his investment partner sold 0.75 acres, 2000 Biscayne Boulevard in Edgewater for $20 million to Kushner Companies, which plans a nearly 400-unit apartment tower on the site. The same month, Manhard and his investment partners reinvested in Miami, paying $46 million for 2.2 acres downtown that are zoned to allow up to 80-story, 2.2 million square foot project. Manhard put a 2.4-acre development site along the Miami River on the market in February for an undisclosed price, although sources familiar with the submarket said the land is expected to sell for about $30 million. The area where Manhard made his latest purchase has caught the eye of developers with various projects either completed, under construction, or proposed. With various projects, north of the site, the Magic City Innovation District is underway, and just east of Manhard's property, developer Justin Pulaski wants to build a 5.9 million square foot fixed-use Sabal Palm Village at Flagler Trail on the current site of the Design Place. It appears that Manhard, and this is just my assumption and reading the article and knowing the market, is that he's not developing anything. He's buying a speculative land buyer, and he's buying in these areas just before developers are going in there. Here again, he's buying closer to Little Haiti. He bought in Edgewater, flipped to Kushner. He bought along the Miami River. That's for sale now. He still hasn't built anything. So, I guess land flipping is good in Miami. What else is going on in Miami? Let's talk Real estate reimagined. Adaptive reuse, now a strong alternative to ground up construction. So the last article was based on someone who's buying and trading land. This article is about someone who's looking at the structure and just repositioning it. This is another way an investor can make money. A glance at the Fort Lauderdale, and this article is by Brian Bandel from South Florida Business Journal. Brian says, at a glance at the Fort Lauderdale building shows the high arching ceiling and the stained glass of a traditional church. But the structure welcomes patrons of another kind. Revealers who dance the night away at Angels Nightclub, a church to a nightclub. That's been done before in New York City. The creative example of a reuse for former First Evangelical Lutheran Church wasn't the first option for developer Italy Ivatel, founder of Fort Lauderdale-based Tahoe Investments. He originally aimed to build an apartment tower to replace the Flagler Village Church, but the city designated it as historic. That's when Ivatel became a convert to one of the hottest development trends in South Florida, adaptive reuse. He brought in restaurateur David Gardici, who envisioned the massive sanctuary as an event space with the restaurant. Now the Holy Blue, they gutted the interior but maintained the exterior of the building to keep the church's signature elements. It took almost 2 years of working on it, but when you see how it looks now, it's worth it, Ivatel said. You feel like you are in something that's been there for 100 years. So it's created a very special vibe. With the cost of building materials surging over the past year and the scarcity of available land in urban cores, some have discovered adaptive reuse as a more cost-effective mode for development. It can also create compelling space for tenants that appreciate a historic feel over newer buildings. While South Florida lacks a lot of buildings of hundreds of years old, there are plenty of historic structures near its urban centers, generally the first places in the region to be developed. What's more, the growth of e-commerce has resulted in the loss of bank branches, department stores, print shops, auto parts stores, which create adaptive reuse opportunities for all of the developers. However, the strategy involves some risk. When dealing with buildings constructed in another generation, it's a challenge to know what pearls lurk behind the walls or underneath the floorboards. Completely tearing down buildings to make way for new construction creates a lot of waste in both the trash building materials and the energy expended during the demo, said Carlos Priot, a founding principal of Miami-based architecture firm Tuzet Studio. He recently worked with Miami-based Terra to convert an old parking garage in Coconut Grove into the Mary Street office building. They removed one of the level of the parking garage, added 3 floors of office space, removed some ground floor, and redesigned the spaces for retail. The office building is now fully leased. People are starting to look at the old stock of buildings, and if the structure is good shape, it makes sense not to demo it, but to convert it into a different use. In most cases, it's much more affordable to do so because you're not doing all the underground work. In fact, when Priot Tuzet designs new parking garages, he does so with the expectation that they will eventually be redeveloped because there will be less demand for parking in the future. The garages have flat floors, and the ramps can be easily disassembled so the space can be converted to other uses. Adaptive reuse has gained steam in South Florida because of its land-constrained market. Without many vacant properties, there's a labor shortage for big construction jobs, and working with municipalities for ground-up construction permits is often a lengthy process, said Jamie Surges, CEO of Fort Lauderdale-based Native Realty. He has led numerous adaptive reuse projects in the Flagler Village neighborhood. Many of the best adaptive reuse opportunities are in industrial buildings near the urban core, especially in walkable areas. People like to have warm spaces where they feel connected to the building, Sturgis said. Not everybody wants an institutional corporate setting. They want more natural settings and something that feels more like home. Maintaining the magic. Wynwood is one of South Florida's hottest neighborhoods for development, and some investors are still finding value in remaining older buildings there for new uses. Link Real Estate and Jameson Equities turned an old print shop at 2509 North Miami Ave into the Print House. The site is now home to office and restaurant spaces, including outdoor dining in the former parking lot. The building attracted tenants because it was unique, said leasing broker Andreas Nava, managing director of Miami-based Metro One Commercial. The owner was not oblivious to the fact they could develop 12 stories there, but they felt it wasn't the right time today, Nava said. But the reuse added value to the real estate. Mosh Manna has spent more than 400 million buying over 60 properties near Flagler Street in downtown Miami. And despite current zoning that would permit more than 60 stories there, he's starting with adaptive reuse. Manna is taking a cue from Wynwood to make Flagler Street a more pedestrian-friendly environment and bring new tenants into renovated spaces, said Brendan Miller, Chief Investment Officer of Los Angeles-based Thoroughfare Capital, which recently provided a $16.3 million loan to Manna's company for adaptive reuse on several buildings there. Thoroughfare, which focuses on adaptive reuse nationwide, recently opened a Miami office to increase its deals in South Florida. Manna will repurpose some of the buildings for ground floor retail to take advantage of the city-founded streetscape improvements. Miller said in some buildings, upper floor residential space will be converted into offices for the creative industries. Parking garages have provided a useful canvas for architect Pat Bosch, design director in the Miami office of Perkins and Will. She helped Trio Group build a student housing complex called Fox atop the parking garage at the South Miami Metro Rail station, capitalizing on the triangular shape of the garage to create a courtyard in between the apartments. She's also working with a Mercedes-Benz dealership to convert the former Coral Gables police headquarters and parking garage into a dealership. The police department needed a new building, and Bosch realized the old building could be repurposed instead of torn down. Instead of destroying buildings that have been a part of the community for decades, they can be reincorporated into the neighborhood's future, she said. When you do projects that are readaptive reuse, it's about long-term community building, Bosch said. It's about reimagining and celebrating history and a sense of place. We are building upon what we have instead of disposing of it. While some corporations prefer modern Class A office space, many technology companies and creative business appreciate history and nostalgia. So they seek adaptive reuse to attract employees, said Ben Mendel, co-managing partner of Miami-based Tricera Capital. His company is transforming the former Palm Beach Post office and printing facility in West Palm Beach into a multi-tenant offices, a grocery-anchored retail center and restaurants called The Press. Some of the printing equipment remains to remind tenants of its previous use. When you walk into the retail shops, you will know that this used to be different use, and you will be able to feel that, Mendel said. That delivering experience you can't create with ground-up, brand-new construction. Mandel said it would have cost about 30% more to deliver similar product with new construction. He said the retail and the office spaces are 70% to 60% leased, respectively. However, not all adaptive reuse projects make financial sense, he added. Sometimes the skeletons are in the closet with these older buildings, so it's more expensive to do adaptive reuse in certain structures, Mandel said. Costly surprises. Well, he's happy with the end result of the Angels nightclub, and it's an adjacent restaurant. Avaltal said that the construction job was riddled with unexpected challenges. You don't say. The underground utilities weren't where they expected. They had planned to take down a wall, but found a support column behind the drywall, so they had to reconfigure the kitchen instead. This project was one of the big surprises from beginning to end, Avaltal said, adding that they needed to improvise on the fly. Native Realty Sturgis said developers should conduct careful due diligence before committing to an adaptive reuse. Asbestos, lead paint, and structural support issues could make a project more costly. In many cases, an older building must be brought up to current windstorm codes regarding the roofs and the windows, or even flood evaluation codes, he added. Impact fees are another hidden cost. Metro One's Nava said many municipalities require impact fees when a building has a significant change in the use that generates more traffic and need for public services. For instance, turning an empty space into a restaurant can bring up to $50 a square foot in impact fees. He said, landlords should calculate impact fees before starting construction or negotiating a lease with a tenant, he added. The cost of renovations and impact fees go a long way toward determining how much rent a project needs to bring in a turn in profit. And what type of tenant the developer should target, Nava said. A less expensive job might be suitable for a creative office tenant, but a more expensive job might require a tenant that can afford higher rents, such as a restaurant. Mix of old and new. An adaptive reuse project need not stand by itself. In many cases, it complements ground-up construction, especially when hand in hand with reinventing a neighborhood. Wynwood became one of Miami's top tourist attractions, thanks in great part of the adaptive reuse. Old industrial buildings were converted into popular eateries, stores, and galleries. Before that occurred, Wynwood was not a place most people wanted to walk around at night. Now it's a booming with new construction of multifamily and office buildings. Joe first helped usher in the changes in Wynwood while at Goldman Properties. Now, as founder of the Place Projects, he's working on transforming an industrial area in West Palm Beach. The Nora district along North Railroad Avenue will start with an adaptive reuse of old warehouses in a new streetscape that will eventually lead to ground-up construction, he said. In Wynwood, the warehouses were pretty plain, and they became great canvases for street art. But Nora is different because the 90 to 100-year-old buildings have plenty of character, First said. It's less about blank canvases here, he said. We're going to make improvements to those buildings to celebrate their existing character. As they finish the adaptive reuse projects, First and his partners will start work on new buildings with up to 2 million square feet of approved north of historic buildings. An apartment project will be first up, possibly followed by offices, he said. In Miami, development of the Magic City Innovation District has a similar strategy. Metro One partner in the project has landed restaurant, technology, and creative industry companies such as music studios as tenants after adapting industrial buildings, Nava said. All of that is making the neighborhood a more appealing place to live as developers move forward with plans for the first phase of the new construction, a 25-story residential tower. Nashville, Tennessee-based Adventurous Journeys, AJ, capital partners in Miami-based MVW Partners will pursue both adaptive reuse and ground-up development in Miami's Little River neighborhood, where they paid $75 million in 2021 for 24 acres across multiple locations. The area is largely industrial now, but the developer has already attracted dozens of tenants by renovating older buildings. For example, they converted a former roofing material manufacturing warehouse into Sunny's Steakhouse. Performing adaptive rehouse adds authenticity and a sense of history, said Scott Abbott, senior VP of AJ Capital. When working on former warehouses, they often polish the floor, punch holes in the walls to add windows, add landscaping, and convert the interior space to suit the tenants. All of this is setting the stage for the AG Capital to build an apartment complex with about 300 units in Little River, he said. That way, the new residents will have places to eat and work. It's hard to achieve that differentiated look when building new, Abbott said. Adaptive reuse combines the old with the new, and the resulting product is a little more one of a kind. So there you go. Adaptive reuse going strong in Miami-Dade County, Broward County, all the way up to Palm Beach County. It's a pretty cool picture of what they did in Broward. And here's the real new, what are we doing? Where are we going? We got land, we got adaptive reuse. Then we've got CBD. Bum, bum, bum. CBD in the house. That's not what I just wanted to do. Fade in, fade out. CBD company signs $400 million deal to open up to 100 lounges in industry test. See, this is one of those tenants that would fit right nicely and cozy into a redevelopment or a reposition old warehouse. A CBD place, come on, it's a no-brainer. Can be, I guess that's the name of the company, and similar businesses can face challenges from tight or delayed regulations. Pretty cool picture, huh? Look at that. It's got the old with the new. And let's read in this article by Linda Moss, CoStar News. A supplier of products with compounds found in cannabis struck a deal to open as many as 100 CBD lounges starting in Miami. Why not? Most developers are looking here. People are moving here, migrating here. Tech's here. South Wall Street's here. Wall Street of the South is here. Silicon Valley is here. Why not CBD? With a developer who plans to invest up to $400 million in a test of industry's ability to expand nationally. Can be based in Hicksville, New York, said its executive in agreement with an American Development Partners based in Nashville, Tennessee, to finance and develop the consumption lounges, which would offer products that are hemp-derived derived, but without THC, the substance that gets cannabis users high. Cannabis or CBD is used to promote relaxation. As part of the deal, American Development plans to finance and develop up to 100 CBD lounges, with the first 50 committed to by CanB and an option to develop 50 more. CanB will operate those sites, with the first debuting in April in the Wynwood tourist section of Miami. There you go. What did I say? The number one reposition place, destination, submarket, Wynwood in Miami, that's putting the blueprint for all these other submarkets that are repositioning their properties, Broward, West Palm Beach. It's watching Wynwood, and here's Wynwood attracting the number one tenant, CBD, where they're starting their 100 rollout here in Wynwood, Miami. Everything makes sense. Some analysts predict CBD and the cannabis will be booming business nationally and internationally, with more states legalizing the recreational use of cannabis by adults in the past few years, including New York and New Jersey. But state and local regulators, in some cases, are taking a long time to draft rules related to CBD and cannabis, holding up the opening of farms, warehouses, dispensaries, and lounges related to the production and distribution of products. And when rules are finally set, they can be very restrictive in where CBD and cannabis sites can operate, mandating buffer zones between them and schools and churches. And at least one other company, Gentech Holdings of New York City in 2019, announced plans to launch a national chain of CBD cafes, but they never came to fruition. In fact, there hasn't been a mad rush into the sector because of the obstacles, according to Brian McLaren, CEO of Scottsdale, Arizona-based Zoned Properties, a real estate development and advisory firm specializing in the cannabis industry. He quotes, or I quote him, "The regulatory process and licensing is so new, I'm not sure there's been much of a chance for these to establish nationally. At least there's no true lounges that allow consumers to legally consume on premises similar to a bar/pub," he told CoStar News in an email. "I have seen several that are basically coffee shops that also sell CBD products attempting to be lounges. Even in Denver, located in one of the most cannabis-friendly states in the nation, Colorado, took years to see the introduction of CBD consumption lounges," according to McLaren. Financial commitment. The development cost for each of CanB's planned CBD lounges is about $4 million. So American Development is initially committing to roughly $200 million with an option for an additional $200 million. The agreement stipulates that the company will be the exclusive developer of the lounges during the 10-year term of the deal and will receive a fee of 10% of the total development cost for each lounge. CanB also plans to enter into a 20-year lease for each lounge developed by American Development. The company provided details of the leases in a filing for the Securities and Exchange Commission. Rent will equal total development costs, including land acquisition costs and development fee, multiplied by the rent factor to be determined on a lounge-by-lounge basis, which factor will be capped at 10. According to the filing, rent will increase by 2% annually. They will be a triple net leases, with the tenant paying expenses, including real estate taxes, building insurance, and maintenance, for a 20-year term, the SEC filing said. CanB produces a hemp-derived cannabinoid products, including under its own brands, Cannaboid, Stephen Caracas, New Wellness, Pure Leaf Oil, and Dormine. It distributes products to medical facilities, doctors' offices, and retailers for sale online and direct. The company operates research and development and production facilities in Lacey, Washington, and in Florida. Hemp has been described as a cousin of marijuana plant, and the hemp and marijuana both have CBD as one of many components. The difference between them legally is that hemp contains less than 0.3% THC, while marijuana contains more than 0.3 THC. Our CBD lounges will encompass food, drink, and entertainment and highlight our health and wellness CBD products. Marco Alfonsi, CEO of CanB, said in a statement, "We have planned to roll out a number of locations over the next few years and believe it will be a large contributor of revenue to our company without dilution to our shareholders." American Development specializes in capital, site selection of design and architecture and engineering, construction, and sale-leaseback deals. It develops freestanding, single-tenant commercial real estate across all 50 states. Our team is always looking to work with exciting growth opportunities, especially with new or emerging concepts, Peter Quintel, American Development Communications Director, said in a statement. "We've done a lot of build-outs in healthcare and food and hospitality with clients such as American Family Care, Church's Chicken, Taco John's, and are excited to add CanB to our roster of clients. But the primary challenge the company and CanB face in the CBD arena is formidable," According to McLaren, and very similar to all cannabis-related projects in real estate development, namely locally regulatory zoning and permitting, even though hemp and most CBD products are considered legal by the federal government from the 2018 Farm Bill that legalized hemp, there are still lots of regulatory conflicts in the state and local governments, McLaren said. Many states have started to introduce regulatory language, licensing, and permitting, especially for consumption lounges, but it's very complex. That's because, in part, operators planning such lounges must comply with smoking and health regulations combined with cannabis rules, according to McLaren. So we'll keep an eye on that, see what happens with the cannabis and industry and where it rolls out, how it works. So let's go to the 10-year. The 10-year, last time I reported, was around 1.9. Now it's over that 2% range again. And over to the mortgage banking prime rates, current mortgage rates, 30-year fixed at 4.2, 15-year fixed 3.4, 10-year fixed 3.3, and a 5-year with an ARM is at 2.9. I'm David Mugard. You've been listening to Property Value. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.